All right. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining in today. My name is Zanzi, and I am the host of the Showcase AMA series here on the Polygon Discord. Today, we got Donn Kim with us from BTC Proxy. How are you doing today, Don?
Great, nice to be here. Wonderful to be back and talking to the Polygon community again.
Fantastic. Yeah, super happy to have you here and really excited to get to know you and your project better. Um, so, why don't we kick it off doing some like introductions? What's your backstory? Like, what were you doing before crypto, and what got you into the space?
Um, we started back in 2017, developing systems for ETFs, exploring blockchain technology. We ran into a couple of use case scenarios, and then we pivoted in 2020 because we saw similarities between ETF structures and stable coins. And what was really interesting was when we saw DeFi summer take off in 2020, and we watched the rise of WBTC and Wrap Bitcoin, and we saw how it was being done, and we believe that we could do a better job.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's a pretty awesome mission statement there. Um, so when did you guys first launch BTC Proxy, or like when did this idea first come to fruition?
Like I said, the idea kind of came in 2020 when we pivoted, but the token proxy launched, I believe it was July of 2021, and then the actual BTCPX, which is the wrap Bitcoin, launched several months after. So we've been, you know, um, in operation and live for about a year now.
Okay, cool. So what would you say since you went live and did that token raise, what would the main developments be?
Um, we we always had a mission statement, which was to utilize the proxy token, which is the governance token of the ecosystem, to farm Bitcoin. Um, those of you that are in our community know, because we've been spreading around that meme, um, and we've released some details. uh, that is the main purpose of our project, is to create an ecosystem that enables Bitcoin, DeFi for Bitcoin, and by utilizing these products to generate yield in BTC and allow the proxy token holders to farm those fees which are in Bitcoin. So it's quite a unique stance in DeFi, and something that we're kind of proud of because it's very unique, which is the ability to farm Bitcoin with proxy.
All right, cool. So do you want to just like give a bit of a breakdown of all the things DeFi users can do with the platform? Like what is the best things users for users to do with BTC Proxy right now?
Sure. So Um, earlier this year, we launched our version of staking and bonding. Staking was for the purpose of liquidity mining our token. So our token has a very limited supply. It has a max supply of 21 million, mimicking Bitcoin. About 4.5 million has been liquidity mined by being able to stake it in our staking pool. So we have we had very high APYs that have come down since then, and we believe that enough has been put out in the marketplace now for us to pivot. Um, we had bonding mechanisms, which, if you're familiar with bonding, it is selling assets to the treasury in return for a premium uh, on the token. So we launched those. That also will be pivoting to better serve the new protocol. Uh, I'll go into more details on that later, but those are the two functions, and there's interest bearing Bitcoin product that we have. So you just stake Bitcoin, and you can liquidity mine proxy. But those are sort of going to be pivoting into our new mechanism, and that's why I'm here to talk today about the which is the Bitcoin farms.
Hey, sweet. Do you want to go into talking about the Bitcoin farms right now?
Yeah. So um, when you look at um, our sort of Bitcoin wrapped marketplace out there in the ecosystem, you have REN protocol, and REN protocol, they have their version of staking, but it's in the form of nodes, and the users have to sort of maintain a server, purchase, I think it is like something like 100,000 rent tokens, and that gives their tokens a real use case also. But we don't foreseeably want users to do the same thing to maintain servers, software, and have the need for that much, uh, that many tokens. And if you have a node, it's not easy to sort of onboard and offboard. So we created instead, it is a tiered staking system where proxy token holders will be able to, join and participate in tiers of the farm by securing their spot within there to earn Bitcoin yields depending on how much is staked. So it's like a node, but it's not like a node because there's no node necessary. But they'll be just sectioned off into tiers instead.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So do you want to jump into like doing a screen share and like just showing us an overview of everything?
Um, I didn't really prepare a screen share to show you, but I do have like a deck that we do show institutions, and I can share some of that. I don't know how much that will uh, sort of help, but yeah, maybe I can do. Uh, hang on a
Yeah,
second
that
here.
sounds good. A slide deck would be great. I just
Yeah.
find it's always nice to have like a visual to aid in the explanation of things.
Can you see? Can everybody see this screen right here? Actually, I got to go back to slide one. So, um, Zanzi, can you see that?
Yeah, it looks great.
So, uh, BTC Proxy, it's a bridge in an ecosystem, and we're trying to solve the problem for Bitcoin to cross over and participate in yield without having to necessarily sell their assets. So we know that their Bitcoin is looking for yield in the marketplace. It's literally 40% of the market, but it's not easily utilized for DeFi because there's an interoperability issue. So investment funds, miners, and holders looking for yield, what they've done and in the past is they've put their Bitcoin onto centralized exchanges. And so what's the result? We've in we're going through it right now. We've had failure of high profile entities, Celsius, BlockFi. You've seen all these names. We've lost billions due to CeFi counterparty risk and deleveraging. And thousands have lost their entire Bitcoin stack or their savings. And so there's been a degradation of trust in these centralized exchanges, and it's permeated to DeFi as well. So it's not been good for CeFi and DeFi. But uh, the public has a misconception that DeFi failed, but it's actually not. It's centralized finance that failed, like startup banking entities like Celsius that got over leveraged, and decentralized finance protocols work great. Um, Aave, Compound, Maker, all those DeFi um, entities, they fared well. And you can see here there's links to Dan Moorhead and CNBC articles stating such. And so that's where we come in, so that people don't have to put their Bitcoin onto centralized exchanges or face counterparty risk. We offer a Bitcoin bridge that utilizes insured third-party custodians that don't leverage your Bitcoin in the back end. So safely storing that Bitcoin in order for these holders to participate in DeFi. So we've had investment from blockchain, Alphabet, Polygon. We've onboarded 34 institutions, and we have minimized that counterparty risk by working with custodians such as Binance, Fireblocks, and Gemini Trust. So we just recently onboarded with Binance Custody, which is a huge step forward for us. And so we've had some testimonials. This is John Sarson from Sarson Funds. They were looking for an exact solution like us because they and these investment funds are also holding um, client funds, and they need to ensure that it's done in a safe manner. So imagine if, well, I'm sure they did, invested and put their funds into these CeFi entities, they would have lost it all. So this is just a slide where we present and open doors, try to open doors with institutions, but that's basically the deck. It's very short.
Okay, cool. I guess I have some questions like regarding just how the whole platform works. So let's say like hypothetically like I hold 10 Bitcoin, right? And I want to start making usage of BTC Proxy so that my Bitcoin is actually like I'm doing something with my money besides just hodling. Like I want to earn some yield on my Bitcoin. How would I go from like having that Bitcoin on like the centralized exchange or something to or on my ledger to getting it on BTC Proxy? Like is that done
Yeah.
through the insured custodians, or do I like is that you trade wrap Bitcoin for BTC Proxy? I'm just curious about how the whole acquiring BTC Proxy works.
Yeah. So if you go to btcproxy.io, the interface, you connect your wallet, your MetaMask or your EVM wallet, and um, what it will do is it will generate a deposit address, a Bitcoin deposit address from the custodian. And so, utilizing your Bitcoin wallet, which is not connected, you send it directly to the custodian. And once it hits there, it's safe under their policy. Um, our protocol detects the deposit and mints you a BTC proxy on the corresponding chain and just simply deposits it into your wallet. That transaction is actually gasless, and Matic we've teamed up with incentivizes that by giving you Matic gas tokens when you do that transaction. And then with that BTC proxy, you move over to the DeFi side, and there's products there that you can participate in. Right now, you can stake it for proxy. In the future, you'll be able to collateralize it to borrow USD utilizing that collateral, and that USD can be cross-chain to any place to participate in our protocol or anybody else's protocol. That's a new product that we're launching in the future called Redux. It's interest-free borrowing using your BTC.
Okay. So essentially, like, if I'm trying to get into this ecosystem, like, I can only use like real Bitcoin. It's not using wrap Bitcoin, and then that once I've like onboarded with like pure Bitcoin and I got my BTC proxy, I can also redeem it back like 1-to-1 later on. Like, this is its own like kind of version of wrap Bitcoin. Like, that's, am I understanding
Yes,
this correctly?
you are understanding correctly. Exactly. So you once you mint over and you've deposited your Bitcoin into custody, when you're done, you can go and redeem it by burning that BTC proxy, and then it'll send that Bitcoin back to your wallet or wherever you decide you want it to go. So at this moment in time, um, the protocol can only accept real Bitcoin, but we are in partnerships talks with Ren protocol, and we do plan to open up the protocol to accept Ren BTC and WBTC as an equivalent.
Okay, cool. So that makes sense how like BTC proxy is like always backed 1-to-1. And then so with the staking and bonds, like if I were to, the bonding is for the proxy token. And so essentially, is the proxy token like the token that's used to provide yield on the platform?
Uh, Correct. So uh, you can bond. So proxy token is what's being yielded right now. Whether you stake proxy or you stake BTCPX, right now you're yielding proxy. So we're just at the end phase of the liquidity mining. And once proxy token, once this phase is finished, um, that proxy token can then be utilized to stake into those tiers to earn uh, BTC or BTCPX. And so you'll yield Bitcoin utilizing that proxy. So at this moment in time, we're just um, yielding proxy, but it's changing.
Okay, cool, cool. And you mentioned something about a upcoming lending platform that would be interest free. I'm wondering if you want to dive a bit deeper into that.
Sure, sure. So once you've bridged over your Bitcoin to BTC proxy, there are holders, users of Bitcoin that um, you know they don't necessarily want to exchange it, but they want to leverage it. So um, with Aave, which is one of the biggest borrowing and lending platforms, you can only utilize your Bitcoin to collateralize if you actually swap it for WBTC, and then you have to take WBTC over to Aave. So there is a actual swap that needs to be done in order to participate on Aave. So we've uh, just sort of leveraged our bridge so that the user doesn't have to sell their BTC, just stake it, and then they can utilize BTC proxy as collateral to borrow USDC. So the reason why it's called Redux, it's because it's an interest-free borrowing platform. You don't have to pay interest on it in addition to what you've borrowed. So when you usually participate in these platforms, if you borrow 100, you have to pay back 100 plus 7 in order to get your collateral back. But in this case, you don't have to pay back the 107, you just pay back the 100 because the interest is reduced or reduxed from the collateral that you've provided, which is in the form of which is that BTCPX that you collateralized, and that interest that we've earned, I guess, from lending, we make that available to be farmed by the governance token. So it's a form of like revenue sharing, if you want to say.
Okay, cool. That sounds pretty exciting. Looking forward to seeing that hit mainnet. One thing, guys, I want to mention, if you have any questions for Donn, just drop them in the text channel, and we'll make sure they get asked. Um, One thing that I think would be important to touch upon is, like you mentioned, there's some like pretty key partnerships going on, like the um, Binance, Custody, Gemini, several others. Is there any like key like investors, supporters, or partners that you want to highlight, and like what's the benefit of like these partnerships?
Yeah, so I believe I mentioned that we've onboarded three custodians. Actually, I think it's four: Binance Custody, Gemini Trust, Hex Trust, and Fireblocks. We utilize each one of them depending upon, I guess, our needs, but establishing relationships with all four was important because it enables us to sort of reach the entirety of the custodial market. On the other side, where we had investors, our TGE was a long time ago, but we came out of the Alphabet launch pool sort of cohort of projects, and one of the most notable investors that came afterwards that is participating in our protocol is blockchain.com. And those of you who know, uh, blockchain.com touches about 1/3 of all Bitcoin transactions. They have one of the most they are very early original Bitcoin infrastructure company with and wallet. So having them on board really helped us validate our use case.
Okay, fantastic. ZZ has a question regarding like security. He's wondering what risk do users face by sending their pure BTC to the BTC Proxy protocol, and he states no yield opportunity is risk free.
You're right. There's no nothing is risk free, but we do our best to minimize risk. It's obviously up to you to make sure that you copy or scan the barcode and the right address and send it to the right place. But once it touches uh, uh, the custodian, that Bitcoin, as you know, one of the largest risks in DeFi are cross bridge protocols. Um, I'm sorry, there was a huge hack of 190 million on, I believe it was a bridge. Lots of bridges are susceptible to attacks, and for Bitcoin, it's I believe the safest way to stake it is within these regulated and insured custodians. They have to abide by standards where it minimizes your exposure. Because when you put it onto a centralized exchange or like these platforms, CeFi platforms, in the background, they're actually utilizing your deposit to try to earn that yield to pay you back. And that's what's happened. They've over leveraged themselves. But custodians, they're not allowed to, as a regulated entity. They're not allowed to take your assets and trade it in the background. So that is what helps minimize your risk.
Okay, cool. That makes a lot of sense. So essentially, these custodians are shouldering basically all the risk for the Bitcoin.
Right, and they have insurance policies to make sure it's covered in case of a hack or something. But usually custodians, they use very high secure methods and multi-sig to ensure that that it's stored safely.
Okay. Moons MN has a question. He's wondering, when do you expect Redux to launch? He says he loves the idea, and is there any timeline in terms of when we need to switch from staking to farming?
Staking to farming is going to happen relatively soon. I'm just going through a series of AMAs to sort of let the public know that the change is happening. Redux, the contract is actually done, and what we're doing is the devs are connecting the UI and testing, and so we're in that phase now. So the contract is finished. We still have to audit it, but the hard work is done. So we're just we foresee that coming out probably within Q4. But the farming, that should be happening relatively soon. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Have we touched on everything that's in your roadmap that you wanted to talk about?
I think we have. Yeah, you've enabled me to sort of share the most important ideas. Yeah, I believe we have.
Okay, perfect. Just wanted to make sure. Um, okay, we got another question coming in from ZZ. What mechanisms are ready or planned for BTC yield farming partnerships? Um, our project uses only wrapped Bitcoin on Polygon, and we are looking for partners to safely farm our wrapped Bitcoin treasury. Is this something BTC Proxy is modeled around currently or has plans for?
Yeah, so I mentioned that right now the protocol can only accept pure BTC. Um, we plan to open that uh, so that we can accept RenBTC or WBTC. Doesn't matter the chain. Um, so once those assets are deposited into custody, we just have to create a sort of branch to accept these new assets. Then you'll be in BTCPX to do whatever you want in the ecosystem and redeem out when it's time. So um, that is actually something that we're excited to do because we have a partnership with Ren to open up the protocol to all their holders, and that's exciting for us because they have $1 billion, I believe, or just under in Ren BTC out there. So yeah, Wrap BTC and Ren BTC integration is coming.
Fantastic. Ted K is wondering, is there any information that can be shared for tier levels in preparation for farming PX?
So there's going to be 3 tiers, and each tier will, I guess, determine how many tokens are going to be needed to be in each tier, and um, each tier will have its own yield rate. Um, so that's been a little challenging for us because smart contracts aren't usually designed to handle tiers like this. We're pretty confident that it's going to be released very soon, but I can't release any details about these yield rates yet because before we launch, we're gonna, I guess, determine um, the yield rates if that's what you're looking for. I don't have the information about those yield rates at this moment in time.
Okay. Sydney is wondering, once the farming goes live, where will the yields come from?
Um, the BTC comes from, uh, crossing over the bridge, interest earned from Redux in the future, and I think we've mentioned that it comes from bonding mechanisms also. So you're selling your Bitcoin um, in return for better than market rates uh, of proxy. And then as the treasury builds its Bitcoin um, holdings, we also share that with the farm. So uh, as more bonding and more activity happens, that is what's available is going to be made available for the farms. So it's sustainable in terms of where that yield is coming from.
Okay. Just like doubling back on the security aspect. Are you guys already? You mentioned you're getting audits done on Redux. Is there audits already completed on BTC Proxy?
Yes, all our contracts are audited. We use Quill audits, or I mean Quill Hash. They're an audit company that was referred to us by our accelerator. They've been really good, um, and all of our products are audited by them. The farm uh, was audited by them. Redux, when it is done, is going to be audited by them. Yeah.
ZZ is wondering about the custodians. He's asking, is Hex Trust the only custodian where BTC is being held? And why did you choose Hex as a custodian? So I'm wondering if you want to just like touch on the custodian system again.
Yeah, so our protocol can interchange between whichever custodians we deem necessary. Um, so we chose Hex Trust because they're one of the largest custodians in Asia, based out of Hong Kong. You're looking for custodians that are in certain jurisdictions. So they're from the Hong Kong and Singapore jurisdiction. Um, when you look at Gemini Trust, that is another custodian. Um, they are based out of the US, obviously. Binance, Custody, they are a separate entity from Binance, the exchange, and I believe they're based out of Europe somewhere. I don't recall exactly, but it is a separate registered licensed custodial trust um, uh, license they have, and Fireblocks is based out of Israel. So you choose custodians based upon jurisdiction because when you're dealing with institutional funds, they like to sometimes choose where their assets are stored in which jurisdiction. So that's the reason we chose to spread it out so that in the future, uh, asset managers, if they have a preference, I want to keep it in the USA, they can.
Cool. That's a lot of thought put into that. That makes a lot of sense. Um, Ted K is wondering, we understand that the yield rates cannot be disclosed at this time. Would you be able to disclose the number of proxies needed to be at each tier or a rough estimate range?
Um, I can't. I actually don't have that information
Yeah.
at this time. It's gonna sort of depend upon the price of proxy before it's released. we have an idea, but to make the top tier, we don't want to make it too prohibitive, and we want people to be able to attain that top tier. What the top, having the tier attainable, that puts demand for the token so that people try to get in the highest bracket. So we don't want to make it out of touch, and it won't be. So you're talking 100,000 tokens required for Ren to establish that node. We knew what the cost of that was, and we want to make ours extremely competitive and very accessible. So I just put it at that.
Okay, cool. That makes sense. And yeah, totally respect that you like can't leak all the alpha. Got to do some alpha policing. But I mean, I guess we already did get a fair amount of alpha information regarding the upcoming Redux lending platform and the farms. Like that's some alpha leaks in my opinion. Is there? Well, audience always typically likes to ask like if there's any alpha leaks you can share regarding the project.
I think I think that's all the information that I have for now. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. I just wanted to ask anyways. It was definitely like a significant amount of alpha anyway, so really appreciate that. Oh, great question from ZZ coming in. Do you have any competitors that are doing something similar with BTC and DeFi farming? Like, and what do you think helps you to stand out from competitors who are offering a yield on Bitcoin?
It's the way that your Bitcoin is held. Uh, that's, I think, the determining factor in our protocol. Like when we did our research for how you know ETFs, ETF infrastructure, when we're doing our research and development for that, um, these are financial vehicles that are regulated, by uh, you know financial markets, like the SEC, and they have a strict um, regulatory framework around which they have to hold their assets. And so when we created BTC Proxy, we formulated it around the same way. And we now know that it's speaking to these funds and asset managers because they're used to seeing their assets held in that way. So that's for us the biggest differentiator.
Um, yeah, just to confirm, ZZ's asking, no one else is sending to cold wallet third party custody?
Not that I know of. Uh, I'm looking at I've seen the landscape out there, and they're holding it in different ways. Actually, WBTC does. WBTC does, but you can't interact with WBTC. So for every one thing that they can do, you're not able to claim anything from what's being held in their custody. You holding WBTC doesn't give you the right to redeem a BTC within BitGo. Um, Ren BTC, they don't use a third party custodian. They utilize their own multisig, I believe. Um, there's Badger. I'm not too sure exactly what they do, but I don't think that they utilize custody in their solution.
Okay, that's some really interesting stuff. And do you guys have BTC proxy like available for trading on any decentralized exchanges?
Yeah, it's on Uniswap v3. There's a pair with WBTC, so you can swap it out readily there. for now.
Okay, interesting. That's really good to know that you're able to also purchase it off of Dex. One thing I want to get asked like is about your like short term and like long term plans. How do you want to see BTC Proxy being used? Is there any like key partnerships you're trying to form with any specific like genre of projects, whether it be like GameFi or DeFi projects? Like, how do you see BTC Proxy being utilized in the future?
Investment funds, miners, holders of Bitcoin. These are the target market that I think will find value in our protocol. Anybody holding BTC in large amounts that don't want to sell it or want a safe method to, utilize for DeFi, that's the market that we're going after. So, we just partnered with Sarsen. Uh, that seems to be the typical fund asset manager that we're looking to do business with. Mind
Okay.
you, we don't want to exclude any sort of the market where it's permissionless and it's open to all. But when we're doing like pitches and approaching entities, those are the types of entities that we're trying to you know partner with. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. One thing I totally neglected to ask is how big is the team behind BTC Proxy?
Yeah. So um, we uh, we're mostly developers. Our team is heavily focused on development. We have, key advisors that we sort of leverage to make introductions within the institutional space for us. Um, we have about maybe 8 developers, two biz devs, some key advisors, some communicators, and operations and analysts. So our team is, it's in the double digits. So we're not that big, but we operate efficiently.
Cool. Um, well, just a quick reminder, guys, if you have questions for Don, just drop them in the chat. And Don, is there anything that you want to touch upon that we haven't already?
Um, I think we touched upon everything. I think this AMA was quite thorough. Just want to thank you for hosting and the Polygon team. You guys have been great, and our community. Thank you for your support, and we just want to stay tuned for the farming, which is coming just around the corner.
Yeah. Thanks, Don. Really appreciate having you. And I totally agree. It was very in depth and thorough. Like, we got a great overview of the entire project, and I appreciate all the alpha that you're able to share. Um, where would be the best place for users to follow up with you and your project?
Um, yeah, you can find us on Twitter at BTC underscore proxy or Discord. Look for us on Discord or on Telegram. So we're readily available to, we have our own community. You can join us there for more information, for updates, and for support. So find us. We're there.
All right, perfect. I just dropped all the links in the chat. So if anyone wants to follow up with BTC Proxy, you know where to do so. And thanks so much for your time, Don. Really appreciate having you here today.
Thank you, Zanzi. You're a great host. I appreciate it.
Much respect. Appreciate that a lot. And thank you so much, everybody, for coming out today and listening. Great having you all here. And thanks so much for asking such awesome questions.
Right. Thank you guys. Bye bye.
Bye, everyone. Have a great weekend.